Okay, let's get started. Hi, my name is Hamanate. Thank you so much for listening. Today I will be talking to you about I will give you just a short presentation on the refugees, and my presentation or this presentation has been divided into five parts. So the first part is going to be about the definition, about the refugees definition, and then I will be talking about the refugee statistic according to the a international organization, or the specialized international organization on refugee. After that, I will be moving to the organization that look after the refugee around the world, and that should be under the United Nations. The third part is going to be about support for refugee camps. The fourth part is going to be about how the climate change driven people from their on their from their mother countries to other countries, because the such when we talk about climate change, we talk about the disaster or the catastrophic, like such as the natural disaster, and natural disaster can affect people to move from their own countries. And the fifth part is going to be about event, the Day of Refugee, the International Day of Refugees. And the last part is going to be about the resource, so the some information, more further information about refugee around the world. So let's start from the first slide, which is about the who is the refugees, and just the definition about the refugees. Refugees is someone who has been forced to flee his or her country because of the persecution, war, or violence. So someone has been forced to leave his own country because of such reason. One of them is the persecution. When we talk about persecution, is about unfair treatment or discrimination or something like that. And all this come under a persecution. War, war, such a armed conflict, international armed conflict or non-international armed conflict. Violence, like violation of human rights, torture, and disappearance of person, and all this sort of thing is against the international human rights or the international human rights laws. So a refugees has a well founded fear of persecution for reason of race, religion, nationality, political opinions, or membership in a particular social group. So all these reasons, one of them or all of them together, can force people to flee their own country because of this. Most likely, they cannot return home. Why? Because of fear or afraid to do so, because they are going to be subjected to a persecution. War and ethnic, tribal, and religious violence are leading cause of a refugee fleeing their own country. The clear example at the moment is that the Rohingya Muslims are right now fleeing from their own country, Burma, and they fleeing to Bangladesh because of the persecution. All right, here the 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 study shows, or the statistic shows that the a shocking figures or shocking facts about refugee around the world. Maybe there is no many people knows about what's going on around the world. You wouldn't know until something happened to your own place or your own, or some, if you know if you have been forced to leave your country, you will feel it. But right now, because I'm doing the research and study, I have come to this information. The statistic says here the world is witnessing the highest level of displacement on record, and unprecedented. It hasn't happened before. 65.6 million people around the world have been forced from home by conflict and persecution at the end of 2016. This is just recently information. It's recent information. What happened when we talk about 65.6 million people worldwide, and that's including Middle East, Africa, and South America and Asia. This is just by 2016. 65.6 million people around the world have been forced from home by conflict. The reason? Armed conflict or persecution. So among them are nearly 22.5 million refugees, over half of who are under the age of 18. So our young people are fleeing from their own countries to seek asylum seekers or refugees somewhere else, Europe or in North America or in Australia as well. So they risk themselves and to become refugee to find or to have better life somewhere. Says here there are also 10 million stateless. Stateless mean people who are without any countries. They don't have any nationality. So 10 million people, stateless people who have been denied a nationality and access to basic rights such as education, healthcare, employment, and freedom of movement. And so right now I'm going to tell you some about the state or the country around the world that they have highest rate of refugees. One of them is the Central African Republic, and I'm not going to give you any figures, but I will give you the first example. I will give you some information about what's happening in Central African Republic. As we know, there is a ongoing civil war there in Central African Republic since 2013 until now. But I think the situation right now is getting better and better. We're hoping the situation will be better sometime very soon. So in Central African Republic, since 2013, nearly 1 million men and women and children have fled their home in desperation. Desperation when they are desperate to get out of that country, because of the a bloody civil war going on there. There is many people being killed, many thousands of people being persecution, thousands of people being fled their country. As it says here, 1 million nearly 1 million people have been fled from their own country, and the and the civil war there in Central African Republic, it take like shape of religious conflict, because there are Muslim people, there are Christian people, they say, so they been killing each other and on base of religious, and that's how what's happening right now there. All right, let's move forward. Refugee statistic here, it says here Central America is come. So the order of the first one, Central Republic of Africa there, the first one. Second one is Central America. Countries from Central America, they have highest rate of refugee. Europe, people being fled from Middle East to Europe, Iraq, because of the civil war and Daesh and ISIS. They force people to flee their country. South Sudan, the conflict there between two political parties, they force hundreds and millions of people to seek refugee in refuge in Uganda, and there is many civilians being targeted because of their ethnicity. In Syria, the bloody civil war in Syria, it caused many people to to flee their country as well, go to Europe. Rohingya refugees emergency, as I said or mentioned earlier there, There is many people being fled from the Rohingya uh, ethnic group or Rohingya people. They fled to all over around the world, especially in Bangladesh, Ukraine, because of the civil war between Russia and Ukraine and other Western country or European country, Yemen, the civil war there between the Houthi and the Saudi Arabia coalition. Many kids being killed there by the Saudi Arabia and the international law has to do something about to stop the disaster in Yemen. All right. Okay. Uh, right now, let's talk about the organization or the specialized organizations that look after the helps or look after the refugees. It says here people fleeing persecution and conflict have been granted asylum in a foreign land for the thousands of years. The United Nations agency that helps refugees is the UNHCR, also known as the United Nations Refugees Agency, which emerged in the wake of the World War II to help the European displaced by that conflict. So it has been established in the 14th of December 1950 by the United Nations General Assembly with the 3 years mandate to complete its works and then disband. The following years, on July 28, the legal foundation of the Helping Refugees and the Basic Status Guide UNHRC HCR work the United Nations Convention relating to the status of refugee was adopted. So instead of the ending it works after the 3 years of the UNHCR has been working very ever since to help refugees. Okay, and in 1960, when the African become independence, they produce more country or there is many nation become a independence. So since then and over the following 2 decades or 20 years later, UNHCR had to help with the displacement crisis in Asia and Latin America, and by the end of the century, there were fresh refugee problem in Africa and turning full circle. So because of the civil war was there. So in the world here, nearly 20 people are forcibly displaced every minute as a result of conflict or persecution. The work of the UNHCR is more important than ever before. Okay, we move forward. We right now we talk about what the relationship between the climate change and the displacement. Why people, how the climate change are affecting people to leave their own country and go somewhere else. It's very obvious. It says here, in addition to the persecution and conflict in the 21st century, natural disaster um, can also force people to seek refuge in other countries, such as disaster, flood, earthquake, hurricanes, mudslides, mudslides, as we've seen in Sierra Leone. There is many people being killed there because of the mudslides are increasing in frequency and intensity, while most of the displacement caused by the event in is natural. So they can also cause people to cross border. None of the existing international and regional refugees law. So natural disaster can affect or can force people to flee their own country. So displacement doesn't just happen because of the persecution of the or of the uh, war or something like that, but can happen because of the the climate change. That's all what I want to see. What I want to say. So the yeah, because natural disasters can cause many trouble to people. Okay, here it says here, the so that's why the international community has to come together to address this issue, because it affects all aspects of human being lives. So while some may be escaping the persecution most level, because they are lack any meaningful option to remain. So the lack of food, water, education, healthcare, and livelihood would not only and by themselves sustain a refugee claim under the 1951 Convention. Nevertheless, some of these people may need some um, form of protection because of the natural disaster. All right, this is the event here. So every year on the day of 20th of June, every year the international community come together and celebrate the World Refugee Days or the International Refugee Days. And just to in that day, we try to remind everyone to to help and support the refugees in a world where violence forced thousands of families to flee their uh, for their lives each day. The time is now to show that the global public stands with refugees. So it's very important to people to come together to help refugees all over the world. So before I end up this before I come to conclusion, I just would like to mention about my previous topic that I've been talking about. So I start from the topic about Africa, Asian population, AIDS, HIV infection, children, food shortage and hunger, poverty, human rights, peace and security around the world, population, clean, fresh water and sanitation, and the last video was about the health, about international health or international community health, and this one this about was about refugees. So this is the topic I was talking about for the last few months. So we come to the end we come to the end in terms of this topic. I have placed some reference and resources if somebody interested to get more or to gain more information about this topic can just go to one of these links and can get more information. I would like to thank you so much for your listening and your patience, and I will see you sometime very soon. Bye for now.